Welcome to Media Makers Spotlight from Women in Film and Video in Washington, D.C. We bring you conversations with industry professionals for behind the screens, insight and inspiration.
What happens when you cross the romantic comedy of Nora Ephron and Penny Marshall with the gruesome slasher movie kills and thrills courtesy of Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees? You get something scarily entertaining and cleverly romantic, akin to the new genre-bending slasher rom-com Heart Eyes, starring Olivia Holt and Scream's Mason Gooding, directed by Josh Ruben. Today we are joined by one of the brains behind Heart Eyes, the screenwriter and executive producer, Michael Kennedy. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks, Tara. It's nice to see you.
For our podcast, Media Maker Spotlight, there's 3 rotating hosts, and I'm the self-obsessed nerd for horror films, and I don't really like romantic stuff. So when our producer, Brandon, was like, there's this film and, you know, we can get Michael Kennedy on, everyone's like, Tara, this is you. And I'm like, all right. And I went and I saw it and I laughed and I had tears in my eyes from laughing so hard. And I screamed. I closed my eyes. I was like, no, that's disgusting. Oh my God. And all that's, it was so good. Very well done.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it.
It was sweet. It
is.
For my cold heart, it was sweet.
It's got a sweetness for sure.
So really, congratulations on all its success. I think the biggest success is that it made me very happy. So, but it did get the coveted certified fresh designation on Rotten Tomatoes.
Sure did.
And the second weekend of for its box office, it rose 20% from its opening weekend, which has only happened twice before for any slasher movie, falling behind only Terrifier 2 and the original Scream in 1996.
Yes.
So that is great company to be.
It's pretty cool. It felt really, really cool for that to happen. We were kind of feeling a little like, after the first weekend, we were like, oh, it did okay. I wish it did better. And then the second one, we were like, oh, okay, I could do this.
And I think I was able to watch it that opening weekend, and I was texting my friends. I'm like, I get to interview one of the writers and the producers. You guys should watch it because it's really fun. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, good. They watch.
One of my favorite things is the opening scene has this proposal scene. This is not a spoiler, people, for those who have not watched it. And it's that Pinterest-worthy, perfect proposal. And this is me being the jaded person. I was like, well, these people deserve it. What's happening to them? Because she is mouthing what he should say to her.
Yep.
All sorts of stuff. So what was it like for you to come up with like this tone-setting opening scene that's equal parts funny, and then it's also getting into that gory stuff? Like there's this part where the guy's eyes go different directions. I was wondering, is that like special effects, or is that actor able to do it? Do you remember? And then it's all gory.
Is it the guy that gets the arrow in the head?
I think so. It's the fiance.
Yeah, it's a good question. It must have been something he was just able to do, because I don't think I've ever noticed that. And I wasn't there when they shot that. So my guess is that was probably just him.
How did you guys decide
that
on
with his
that
eyes
sort of
to sell what was happening? Chris and I, when we sat down to, write the movie and discuss how we were going to do the movie and stuff, tone is always a big question. Not a big question, but it's always a big thing with us. Like we have a very specific tone we like, and we know our tone really, really well. So yeah, Freaky and on this, we both discussed how with your traditional opening kills, we always discuss how can we nail what this movie is in this quote unquote like short film to set the table for the rest of the movie. So it's a really important thing for us, because we always want that. Like Freaky, I think, did the same thing, and I think Heart Eyes did the same thing, where we established a tone in those first 10 minutes and then it's carried through the rest of the movie. So like by the end of the opening scene of both movies, people kind of know what type of movie this is. Like they know they're in on the joke. They know it's also got an emotional through line that's serious and stuff too. So yeah, we discussed tone a lot because especially on Hard Eyes, it was a very small needle to thread. Yeah. And so we discussed it a lot because we had to make sure we were never going into parody territory and that kind of stuff, especially on Hard Eyes. So yeah, we discussed it a ton. But Chris Landon has a really good knack, my writing partner. He has a really good knack for writing these really gruesome, over-the-top kills while also keeping you invested in the character dynamics and stuff. So he's like a whiz at that. I always leave the killing to him.
Well, speaking of writing and like scripts, you have written other films solo.
Yes.
Can you describe what the writing process is, writing solo versus writing with other collaborators?
I mean, it's different. When you're writing solo, it's really just you and your computer, and It's a Wonderful Knife had really good producers who were very into what I was doing. So I just had a lot of encouragement from them. So that really gave me a lot of confidence to just keep going with what I was doing on that film. A lot of people, I think, have this misconception that when you write a movie alone, that you're just, it is really just you and your computer and you have no one to talk to. But, I really make sure when I'm alone writing, I utilize my resources, So like on Knife, I utilize my producers a lot for notes. Whereas when I write with Chris, I benefit a lot from him also being a director. And he didn't direct Hard Eyes, but usually when he and I sit down to write something together, it is usually with the thought that he's going to direct the final product. Hard Eyes it didn't end up being the case, but I trust him in like so much that when we write together, I can give him a little bit of more of like the lead on it because he knows what he's going to visually want to present as a director. So in that sense, it makes it a little bit easier because we're writing towards like this final product. Whereas like when you're writing alone, you kind of have to hope and trust that whoever gets hired to direct is going to kind of continue to carry your vision forward. So there's like pros and cons of both, but actually there's really no cons with writing with Chris. Like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
And how did you guys meet in the first place?
I was doing a podcast in 2018 for Blumhouse. I was doing a queer horror podcast for them. And I was a huge fan of Chris. Didn't know him, but because I was doing a podcast for Blumhouse, I was able to get some pretty great guests to come on my show. Yeah, they hooked me up with him. I was like, can you guys get Chris on my show? And they did. And Chris came on my show and we just clicked right away. We like immediately... We clicked. It was instantaneous. We were like friends instantly. Like the next day I emailed him and said, hey, I really had a great time talking with you. I think you're like a really good guy. Like if you're ever up for it, let's grab coffee. And he was like, let's do it. So we started hanging out here and there. Our husbands met each other, started having dinners together and stuff. So we became friends. That's kind of how the whole thing started.
I know, several films later.
Yeah, several films later. What started out as like the thought of a one-time collab has turned into a wonderful 5 years of writing most of our stuff together now.
Oh, that's lovely. Mm-hmm. Well, there's aspects of the film that you guys have added, like these homages. One of the things is like His Girl Friday, which is a 1940s screwball comedy. It has a pivotal role in a big set piece of the film. Mm-hmm. In Hard Eyes. Was there a reason for His Girl Friday, or how did that come about to choose that film?
We actually wrote into the script, When Harry Met Sally. So our scene in the script initially was the deli scene. We wrote the deli scene into our script. So that portion of the movie was really tough to write because you had to bounce between Allie and Jay, and then the hippie couple in the back, and then the screen. And we would have to kind of moving chess pieces to make sure it was tracking and stuff because we were writing portions of When Harry Met Sally into the script too, like certain scenes of dialogue. And then that scene was supposed to end with Meg Ryan's fake orgasm at
with
the same
couple.
time. Yeah, with the couple and the kill and stuff. You know, we wrote it into the script thinking probably weren't going to get to use the movie because to get the studio, and I didn't know this, but a lot of times now, if the actors are still alive, you have to get their approval to use their image and stuff. So ultimately, I think it ended up with His Girl Friday because there was like several movies that they temp put in but didn't get the rights to. And then eventually I think His Girl Friday was just like something they could clear.
Oh, okay. I mean, it works.
Yeah, it totally works. And the thing is there was always we always wanted it to be a rom-com. So like that.
And it kind of is.
Yeah, like there had to be like a specificity to what they were watching. That wasn't a horror movie or just some random movie. It had to be something kind of on theme of the film. And I think His Girl Friday had a really good, especially the scene they chose reminds me a lot of earlier scene in the film when they're at dinner and stuff. So like, I think that decision ultimately, I think came down to Josh and some of the other producers. So I'm not really sure how they came to that final decision. Cause the first time I knew that was in the movie is when I saw the trailer because I had seen cuts of the film where there was different movies in it. Like it was more, we had When Harry Met Sally. At one point it was Moonstruck. Another point it was The Vow. So like I had seen different cuts with different films. And then, the test screenings had different films. And then when I saw the trailer with it, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's a temp placeholder. And it never occurred to me to ask anybody. So then when the first time I actually saw the finished film that was in there, I was like, oh, it wasn't a temp placeholder. Cool.
No, I liked it because it's one of the original rom-coms
Right. Yeah. Fits.
And also, one of my favorite parts is that you guys do have these kinds of homages and references. The parts that made me just giddy was when you guys do a thing where the female character does a whole homage or dresses up for a non-date with her new coworker. And I was like, that's from Clueless.
Yes.
That's from, this movie or in that movie. I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Did you guys? And I knew every single one. And I was texting Brandon. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Did you guys have to get the rights to those too? Or how did that work?
I don't think so because we actually didn't script specific looks. That was Josh, the director and the costume designer, coming up with what she was going to wear in that sequence. I think we described certain outfits, but they added an extra layer of making it kind of
so good.
Connected to other films.
And there was a couple of times, and this isn't really a spoiler, her best friend will say, it's this crazy, stupid love, actually, this line where you're like, I get what they're doing there.
Connecting a bunch of different rom-coms into one.
Yeah. That's probably a stupid question. Is that a copyright thing? Because those are just random words.
You can reference titles, as much as you want, yeah.
Okay, good to know. But again, these are just such clever ways of doing and also going back to the more horror genre part of it, I was like, these are smart moves that they're doing. For instance, it's kind of in the trailer when when a killer comes in the apartment and she's like holding her dildo. She goes, throws it. And I'm like, yeah, you use whatever you got. And then she goes to tie his belt to tie the killer. And I'm like, yes, exactly. Yeah. Get your head out of the gutter, dude. Now is not the time. They're smart. They're figuring stuff out, And so where did you guys think you're like, no, realistically, a person wouldn't be stupid enough to throw away the knife as soon as they use, that kind of thing where you're like, idiot.
We talked about Allie especially being smart. Like we wanted her to make really good decisions. We wanted her to do the smart thing. We also wanted her to do what is traditionally the male role in these films. Like, I don't know if you notice a lot of the time she's doing the thing that the man usually does in these movies, where she's like busting him out of the police station. She's the one hitting him over the head with the lamp in the bedroom and pulling him to safety there. We wanted to make her as resourceful as possible. Like, yes, there's definitely times where Mason as Jay, saves the day. Talked about that as using that in a rom-com way of like them saving each other's lives each once. So like it could kind of be like a cute rom-com trope used in that way. Like when she almost gets hit by the truck and she's like, you saved my life. And he's like, well, you saved mine. We try to make her as smart as possible while also really honoring the rom-com in those moments too. But we also talked about how like we knew on paper in the first 30 pages, if someone read it differently than us or if someone performed it in a way we didn't see, Allie would probably come across as, for lack of a better word, like a bitch.
Right.
We talked a lot about that too. Like we really wanted her to have this huge arc, which requires trust in us from the studio and stuff to go, just trust us guys. Because I bet in the past I've worked on a movie where the first 20 pages, the main character was like down. She was kind of a downer of a person. And the studio is like, oh, she's just too negative. But eventually what ends up happening is the character kind of becomes just really plain then because they have no personality. They have no character arc. So we really here, we're just set out to be like, just trust us. Like if you cast this correctly, it's going to be a gold mine of a role for a person. And Olivia nails it. Like she really nails it. Like it's a hard role. And like to her credit, she really brought an extra layer to it that you just can't write. But we also knew when we were writing it too, that if we did our job correctly, we were writing a really, really meaty role for an actress, like a lot of people that wanted to play that part. So, and I think it's because you don't normally see this layer in a slasher movie. We kind of looked at her as like Sidney Prescott. How do we do a modern day Sidney Prescott? So she was a lot of fun to write. Like Allie's my girl. Like I always tell Olivia, like, I know I wrote it, but I'm dead serious when I say like, you're easily in my top 5 final girls now.
Yeah. That's so sweet. Well, because when they do have their meeting at the nice restaurant, her whole 1% might find their soulmate. The rest 99% of us are being sold fake nonsense kind of thing. I was like, oh my God, yes, preach. This is why I hate rom-coms and BS crap like this. And I was like, and it's not being jaded. Like you guys worded it really well, but to her credit, she performed it really well and realistically, where she's not being unrealistic. I could relate to her. She wasn't being a bitch. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then to Mason's point, I love that line where he's like, these muscles are for cuddling.
That was an ad lib. That was an ad lib.
Oh, was it? Well, that was funny.
Why is that? It's so good.
Because you could easily go, oh, let's have the handsome man be the hero. And she's really... Also, what she ends up wearing, I was like, you know what? This is very lovely outfit, but very practical too. Yeah. So they did say, everyone did such a great job on this film. Please go text everybody and say, Tara loves it.
We had a lot of fun. We loved making this movie, and cast and crew were really tight in it. And I think that helped.
Oh, yeah. And also, you guys filmed in Auckland, New Zealand, and I lived in Auckland as an editor for a little while. So did you work with a lot of Kiwi crew members?
Oh, yeah. Our whole crew, I think, except the DP, were local. And most of the cast, except for the main 6, I always say, the whole cast was Kiwi too.
Yeah, and I feel like it helps with that kind of, you're kind of far from everything else.
Yeah, you're away from home, you're 19 hours ahead. I mean, I was there for 2 weeks and I had a blast, but I remember at the end of the 2 weeks being ready to come home because it's weird living in almost like a day before everybody else.
Yeah.
And they were there for like 4 months. So like they really got close because, Olivia always talks about how she would go there, like she went there alone, away from home for 4 months, and you never know what you're going to get. So I think everyone did a really good job and made a really conscious effort to build like a family. I was there till wrap, and there were tears when people were done and that kind of stuff. Like it was a really special shoot, and I think it shows in the film. And if we get fortunate enough to do another one of these, like I know everybody wants to go back because we had so much fun on the first one. Everyone's like, when can we do it again? When can we do it again? Which is a great feeling because, it's a hard business. And it's really hard to make a good movie. It's hard to make a movie, let alone, so yeah, everyone really just brought their A game. Mason and Olivia led by example too. Like they're both just so solid, great people that it was infectious. So I was there the last 2 weeks of the shoot. And I got there, the day I got there, I was on set for like an hour and I already knew something special was happening. Like I could see it like right away. I was like, oh, they're really doing something here, and I was like the stranger that came in at the end of the shoot.
While I was watching, I'm like, this has a lot of potential to be a series of its own, like another Saw series or a Scream series. Do you guys go into writing these with the intention of this could be its own thing?
Chris and I do not. He's got a very great philosophy, and I'm with him on this of don't press your luck. You know what I mean? Like, don't save anything either. I think you sometimes see that with series that'll be like, oh, we're planning the next 3. You start to see a little bit of just stuff that's held back. So we always go in going, what's the best movie we can write? Like, regardless of anything. Like, we don't want to save anything. On this one, I will say, as we were writing the script and talking with Josh, when Josh was coming on board to direct and that kind of stuff, and with Spyglass, there was like the hopes that there would be more of these because we knew we were writing something really fun and fresh but familiar and all this stuff. And we also just knew this villain was perfect for the franchise treatment. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to make a franchise of if you're going to make a slasher movie franchise, your killer has got to be like, it's got to look good, and Hard Eyes looks good, So I will say on this one, more than any other movie I've been a part of, the sequel discussion started happening during everything. Like, people would be like, is there more to do? Is there more to do? Oh, what if we did this? What if we did this? And the hopes of any person who's financing this shit is that it's going to be successful enough that they can make another one. You know what I mean? So There is franchise potential, and I really do hope we get to explore that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And Will, you also had, I knew about Jordana Brewster, but I forgot that Devin Sawa, how do you say his name? Sawa. When he came on, I'm like, holy crap, I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys have these like cool little pop-ups that again are like homages to classic horror, the Faculty, Final Destination stuff. Did you have those two in particular in mind when you were writing these characters? Or
no,
how did that happen?
We don't usually write with anyone in mind. We didn't, but I know when the movie started taking shape, there was a lot of casting discussions with Hobbs and Shaw of being like, who are some people we haven't seen in this genre in the theaters in a while. There was discussions of those people. You also just know 9 times out of 10, anyone you bring up, like they're not going to do the movie, or they, like there's just, you just got to be really open when it comes to casting, because it almost never shakes out the way you expect it. But like the best philosophy on casting is whoever ends up in the role is meant to be the character anyway. But with Hobbs and Shaw, there was definitely like a wink and a nod kind of thing going on with who they were talking to or mentioning and stuff. And I remember when I heard that Jordana was reading, I was like, oh my God, she's totally Shaw. Like, it never occurred to me. I just didn't know she would do the genre again, because she hasn't done it in a while. But her and Devin were kind of cast right around the same time too, which was super fun. So yeah, it was great, because then, we had this kind of like old guard, new guard kind of going on in the cast. Like, we had these 2 pros. We got very fucking lucky with this Hobbs and Shaw thing by having someone from Fast and Furious be in the movie. Like, their names weren't added later. That was in the script. So when Jordana read it the first time, she was reading Hobbs and Shaw. So I never asked her, like, what were you thinking when you were reading that? But I know she really loved playing with it on set. So yeah, we got really lucky with that. It was such like a happy coincidence, because it's impossible not to think of their stuff when you're watching them.
Well, yeah, because it's like bringing, the 90s slasher, it's like royalty, passing it down to Olivia and Mason and,
Yeah, and we talked a lot about how we wanted to do kind of a 90s style slasher film too. You know, like the original draft of the script that we got, he was more like a Michael Myers. He was kind of like an unnamed, unseen man. You saw him as a kid, and then you cut to like 20 years later, and he was this killer now, and you didn't really know who it was. And when Chris and I started doing our work on it, we talked a lot about, we wanted to do a whodunit and, you know, with this kind of like the Scream style ending and that kind of stuff. So like we talked a lot about like what are some 90s tropes as well that we could use. So we got really lucky with the casting.
So good.
Yeah.
Now, you've done quite a bit of the horror genres, like freaky and hard eyes and all sorts of stuff. Is there any other genre that you want to tackle in the future as a writer or filmmaker? I
don't know. It's hard to say because like I know a lot of people like to flex different muscles and stuff, but I really just love writing in this space. But I will say our dream is one day to do a big gay action movie. So that would be probably the genre I'd want to do next, like a big action comedy with a big fucking gay lead. Because we're both queer, so we both really want. We've talked. It's like a wish movie. Like we talk about it every once in a while. Of like, when are we going to make James Bond gay? But like not James Bond. Like just make like do
like a Die Hard goes to save a husband.
Yeah, something like that. You know,
that is fun.
That would be the genre I'd want to play in if I didn't do a horror movie.
Yeah. Well, this has been so exciting. The film is available to rent and purchase on VOD. And the Blu-ray is going to be released soon. Will you be on the Blu-ray commentary?
You know, I there's a commentary already that they've shot, which is Josh, but I'm not sure. I thought we were supposed to do another one with a bunch of us, but I haven't heard anything. So maybe.
Well, hopefully you will. But it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much. And hopefully there will be a sequel and you'll be back.
Yes. Fingers crossed.
Thanks for listening to Media Maker Spotlight from Women in Film and Video. To learn more about WIF, visit F as in Frank, V as in Victor.org. This podcast is created by Sandra Abrams, Candace Block, Brandon Ferry, Tara Jabbari, and Jerry Reinhardt, and edited by Michelle Kim and Inez Perez, with audio production and mix by Steve Lack Audio. Subscribe to continue learning from more amazing media makers. Please visit MediaMakersSpotlight.com for more information.